You're about to hear the truth about special needs, episode 4. Hey, thank you once again for joining us. This is episode 4 of The Truth About Special Needs. This is the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of a special needs family and just share our experiences and invite you to do the same. My name is Chris Cowan.
Hi guys, I'm Esther.
And we are married. We have 3 awesome little boys, and one of them is named Hunter, and he has special needs. He has a pachygyria, which is basically a condition of his brain, and he's nonverbal and has cerebral palsy. And he's a sweet little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get any further, I want to say a huge thank you to Laura Cowan and Gabriel Carrillo for sponsoring this episode. Thank you so much to both of you. If Laura Cowan sounds familiar, yes, that is my mom. So thank you, Mom.
Your reason.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, our sponsors.
If you are interested in sponsoring an episode or several, we super appreciate it. For $5, you can sponsor an episode, or you can donate more. You can do a one-time donation or ongoing. It does cost money to do this, and if you like what we're doing, or just feel bad for us and you just want to give us money.
Or you have extra money lying around.
You just like throwing money at random podcasts.
Some people do that.
Yeah,
Some people have extra money.
That's absolutely true. Hey, we're working on that. We're going through the Financial Peace University. So we're
Oh yeah, there's our personal update.
Yeah.
We paid off our car. That's our
huge
personal update.
Yeah, that's a big deal for us. So
That actually does have to do with Hunter. It's not just our it's our personal update, but we want to pay off our car so we can start saving up for a new van for when we need to get it adapted for Hunter.
Yep.
In his wheelchair. So
Yep.
That is the goal. We're one step closer.
Absolutely. So I've got a fancy little sound effect for our weekly update. You ready for it?
Yes.
Weekly update. How's that?
We paid off the van.
We paid off the van.
I didn't know you had an update, a little sound effect. You didn't tell me beforehand.
I know.
So I just blurted it out because I was excited.
That's all right. We can reserve this sound effect for maybe weekly updates having to do with Hunter, which we have some of those as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. Hunter, his weekly update is he just turned 5, and I think because it's hard to tell sometimes, but I think we can see little things that are kind of showing that he's kind of growing up a little.
Yeah.
Like his attention span is getting a little bit longer. He'll watch full-length movies now, and he's never done that before. Like, what did you say you watched with him the other day?
He watched Bug's Life, which he didn't used to like Bug's Life, but now he's
kind of, in the past, he's had to have movies and shows that were very exciting with like constant singing or dancing or something. Now he's kind of watching movies like A Bug's Life, where is there any music in that? It's kind of, there's music, but it's not a musical, right?
No, it's not. Although, he's liked WALL-E for a while, which is.
He does like WALL-E.
But I think with some, because he also he's liked WALL-E and he's liked Pluto for a little while. And I think we figured out why is because those are pretty nonverbal. And so they rely a lot on
their facial expressions.
Yeah, visual stuff. And so I think there's a lot of that in WALL-E and definitely in
he loves,
in
that's
Pluto.
what he loves. He loves cartoons with the bigger eyes, the better, because then they're really expressive and he can understand that, I think, better than words.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, he is liking longer movies. It seems like he's paying attention longer. he used to cry all the time. When he would wake up, he would cry and kind of just scream, like no patience whatsoever, like come get me now.
Yeah.
Now we've even noticed a couple times where we've gone in to check on him and he's already awake in the morning, and he's just kind of laying there with his eyes open looking around, which is really new.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of wakes up and, just self-soothes.
He used to be our little alarm clock. And, and now we actually wake up to an alarm.
A real alarm, which isn't much better, but... But yeah, so that's kind of the update, is just noticing a little bit of growing up since he turned 5. I think there's kind of a little milestone there.
Yeah, little milestone. Alrighty. So last week we started talking about some of the things other people who don't have special needs kids might not realize about having a kid with special needs or disabilities. So we kind of started some of our list. Again, this is stuff from our personal experience with Hunter. Obviously, families with children with other conditions are going to have different experiences to some extent, but I think there's definitely some elements that most people can relate to if you have a
similarities
kid with special needs
across the board.
Definitely, and hopefully there's some stuff that's informative, or maybe stuff you hadn't really thought about if you don't have a special needs kid but are just kind of interested in finding out more. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and kick that off. And I've got another
pick up where we left off.
Fancy sound effect for that.
All right.
Main topic. How about that?
Ooh, okay.
It's a louder bell.
There we go.
We're going with bells for some reason. I don't know why.
This is bell central.
So to kick things off, the first thing we have is the emotional side of things.
Yes.
And
the emotional side of things that people probably don't realize.
Yeah. And it's not something you can really realize until you can probably apprehend it, but you can't really fully, I think, comprehend it unless you've gone through it.
Yeah.
And we shared some of that again in our first episode. If you want to go back and hear, let's talk a little bit about the
story,
Hunter's story. But there's definitely, and we shared last week as well, there's been sleepless nights and the physical burden, and obviously, and when he started having major seizures, all that stuff, obviously, anything that has to do with your kid is going to affect you emotionally, assuming you have any soul.
Well, yeah, the emotional side of things, there's a lot of things that, goes on in your emotions.
Yeah.
You wish that your kid wasn't, didn't have the disabilities that they have.
Yeah.
And then that can start making you feel guilty for feeling like that, because you're like, oh, I wish, do I wish I didn't have this kid or what? And it's like, no, you're fine. You just wish he didn't have the disability, and that's okay.
That's a normal thing, is to want something better for your kid.
It's fine, but that is, you do have to accept that you feel that way, and that you probably will always feel that way. That's always going to be an emotional part of your life. You're always going to, you're just always going to wish that your kid didn't have their disability, and you'll be sad. We're sad about it sometimes, and, we encourage each other.
Yeah, back when he was a couple years old, so he was past the really hard times. But back when he was just on an ongoing basis, just not sleeping through the nights, and we were just having so many sleepless nights, like we talked about last week. There was one night, I actually was...
Wasn't it Christmas Eve?
It was Christmas Eve or New Year's? I think it was Christmas Eve.
I think it was Christmas Eve.
2012 or something, maybe 2011. And I had been up with him, and I started just crying. I just started crying. I just felt so sad and so helpless. I'd gotten him to go back to sleep, and I ended up writing kind of a blog, but it wasn't. I hadn't published it or anything. But and I'll put that. I'll link to it in the show notes. But basically,
Just putting your feelings.
Just laying it all out there, kind of just, crying out to God a little bit and just processing my feelings. And if you're in one of those places where you're going through something super emotional like that, it wasn't like there was a new experience that triggered it.
Right.
It's just one of those things where I just felt like so overwhelmed with everything.
It just got too much to bear. And you just have to let it out.
And I mean, I got to say, writing out your feelings, finding some way to express your feelings, and
not feeling bad about it. Let it out and don't feel bad. You have to let it out, otherwise it will just stay in and hold you down.
Yeah, I think so. I think through writing it out, if for me, I used to do poetry to express emotions, and definitely praying and just crying out to God and being honest with God about your feelings. I think even if it's frustration, even if it's anger, I think
I've seen
God can handle that.
A lot of mothers of special needs kids, especially feeling really guilty that they have these feelings, because they feel like it's towards their kid, like, oh, I'm having bad feelings towards my kid, and you're not. It's you're just having normal feelings of you wish that they could do everything, and you wish for yourself that you could get a little more sleep, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Last week we talked a little bit about how we don't feel like it's good to, you
want to live in reality.
Well, no, I was going to say we don't want to not hear about other people's kids that are normal.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to be rude, to people with normal kids. Average kids. I mean, that's ourselves too. It's most families. Most families with special needs kids have average kids as well. But there are times where you see other little kids and you're I don't know, you're jealous of those families, but you don't want to be jealous in a sense of like,
bitter,
being hateful towards them. Like, oh, I wish your kid would, break their legs so they can't walk too. Nothing that's like hateful, but I think of a little bit of, I don't know if there's a word for it, like an okay kind of jealousy. That's just like, I wish I had what you had.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. It's not a sin. I just, like, there was those two little twin baby girls at church. And they're 6 months old, and they were just the cutest little things. They were in nursery, and I was in there with them. And I was just like, it made me a little bit sad, because I was like, oh, I can't even really relate to twin moms, because all of the twin stuff we never dealt with. She's going, oh my gosh, they're both crawling, and one goes this direction, and the other goes that way. And I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be hard? I have twins, but I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And so, a part of me is like, oh, I wish I would have had two average little 6-month-olds and they're playing together and pulling each other's clothes and stuff. And I love the twin babies, and I love their mom. I have no bad feelings towards her whatsoever, but I wish I had what she has, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, because it's not. And it's not about them.
I don't have a bad feeling about Hunter, and I don't
Right.
love him any less. It's just like I guess that's the emotional side of things. Is it's just this weird balance. It can turn negative if you get hateful and mean towards people with average kids.
Yeah, if you don't know how to properly vent those emotions, then that's when it becomes where you're
so I think that's fine to see average kids, and let yourself have a little moment to be, oh, I wish I had that, and oh, I don't, and I'm a little sad. But you kind of have to move on too.
Let yourself mourn.
Yes, have a little grieving time of a little boo-hoo, I'm sad. It's real, it's fine, it's acceptable, but you can't live in that. You can't get depressed.
Yeah.
So you have to let it all out. It's okay. And then, move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think you touched on it a little bit, and we can it was on our list, is basically, one of the things people don't realize is the guilt aspect, that emotion that happens when, there
is definitely guilt feelings.
There's there's things when you have a kid with special needs who can't participate in all the things that your other kids can participate in, or aren't hitting all the milestones that the other kids are hitting. There's some feelings of guilt that come from that sometimes, because we'll be taking all these pictures of the cute things that the other kids are doing.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, well, we want to make sure we're taking pictures of Hunter.
Let's take a picture of Hunter. Oh, he's doing the exact same thing. He's sitting in his chair, smiling.
Yeah. But I mean, and we do that, and we take those pictures of him, and they make great memories. But there's still that
they are the memories.
There's that tinge of guilt, even though we totally know it makes sense in our minds. There's still that tinge of guilt of, why aren't we taking as many pictures of Hunter?
Right.
And the fact is, we're taking a picture of the action, and the action is happening with the kids who are able to move, and.
Well, I finally had to just accept and move on from the fact that when I make our yearly photo albums of our families, there's more pictures of the other two kids, because they just do more stuff that we're putting in the photo album. And I always do have the photos of Hunter, but sometimes he's just in the background, sitting there, and he's always smiling and sweet, but he's not, the main focal point of a lot of the activities. He's in the background of a lot of them. And that was really hard for me at the beginning, because, that's just not what I envisioned. Yeah. But you kind of just, you just have to move on, and we make a huge deal about the things where he is the focal point, his birthdays, and when he's walking more in the gait trainer now, and I'm taking videos and stuff of that. But we want to find ways, when we can, to get him to be more involved, take him out of his chair, hold him. That's one of the things I like to do sometimes is. And this is kind of the flip side, the balance to it, is there are some of those things that we can treasure and appreciate that are kind of our special times with just him. Like he really enjoys music, and so at church, I'll often, while the other kids go to Sunday school or nursery, we'll often take him into the main service and so
let him listen to worship, and he loves that. I'll often take him out of his chair and hold him on my lap during worship.
Yeah. He loves that. And
he loves that. And so, there are those special things that are just him, and those are some things we can really treasure.
Yeah. There's also the like for his birthday, his birthdays and Christmas, we always feel bad because it's really hard to buy any gifts for him. Yeah. Because there's not a lot of stuff.
He's not into the Justice League and Turbo the Snail.
Yeah. He doesn't show interest in stuff like that. I mean, and we buy him movies, and he loves that, but he doesn't show interest in the initial, he doesn't know.
He's not super excited about the box.
Got it.
Or unwrapping.
So it's just hard. We feel bad because we want, we want that. You like to give your kids stuff and make their little eyes light up. Yeah. And his eyes light up at stuff. It's just he doesn't know that you got him a present, so it's kind of anticlimactic.
A little bit,
go to all this work, and there's just not much he can use.
Yeah, so a lot of that stuff is stuff we find that is more for us than for him. Because when he doesn't really know what's happening,
that's true.
And that's true of like a 1-year-old's birthday party or something. They don't know what's going on, and that's kind of the way
they play with the wrapping more than they play with the actual presents.
Yeah, exactly.
But you still go out of your way to spend money.
Yeah. And make it nice. And so that's kind of how it is with Hunter. Is a lot of it is kind of more for us and for the guests and for the other boys than it is for him, and that's just part of it. And speaking of parties and gatherings, that's kind of another thing we kind of had to get over, was the fact that he doesn't always like being around a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah. He gets overwhelmed, I think sometimes in big crowds, because he can't participate in what's going on. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he really enjoys, a
lot of commotion.
If you could imagine not understanding really what people are saying, or potentially kind of understanding what they're saying, but not being able to participate in any way, then it's just, it's either just a lot of noise that's just mumbo jumbo to your mind, or it's really frustrating that you can't participate if you want to.
Yeah.
And we don't know we don't know how it is for Hunter, but
I think it might be, overstimulation.
Overstimulation. We try to just respect where he is at as a person. And when he shows signs like crying or screaming or something when we're in a big crowd, we'll take him into another room where it's quiet and put on one of his little shows on the iPad or something.
Yeah. And that was kind of heartbreaking at first when we realized we had to start doing that, because he's off in his own room by himself and not part of the gathering. But, it's one of those things.
Better for him.
It's one of those things we just kind of realized, well, who are we doing this for? Are we trying to keep him out here? That's not for him because he's not enjoying it. It's just for us. And we had to realize, well, he's happier being off by himself in that room and doing his own thing, and so that's where we just kind of had to realize that
we
needed to
parenting is more about the child than the parent.
Yeah.
That applies to anyone with children.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, that was hard. And I don't know, you just it looks like horrible parenting when you're having this event and you just let your kid sit in the other room and watch TV.
If
that was an average
kid. You think about how it looks, because I think, hey, where's your special needs kid? Oh, he's just off in his
back room. He's
in
quarantined.
Seclusion. It's just it has that element of feeling, oh my gosh, how does this look? This looks terrible. We're just neglecting him, but he's not being neglected. He's happy.
He's happier back
that's
there.
That's what we do.
So that's another thing. We want to encourage any parents out there that have special needs kids. If you have to do stuff like that is special, that's okay. That's part of what special needs means. Is you would never let, your 5-year-old go in the other room and just watch TV at Christmas or whatever. You would be like, no, you can't. You need to come out here and see everybody.
Maybe
and
you would.
I
ain't judging.
That's what special needs means. You will do special things for this child.
You'll let
compared
them
to other
get
kids.
away with stuff that you wouldn't let other kids.
Yeah.
Do. Yeah.
And some stuff is hard. Some stuff's hard on the parents.
Yeah.
That was one that was hard on us because we didn't want to look like we were just abandoning him.
Yeah.
But he loves it. He's happy, and he'll come out for a little while and be happy, and we'll play with him and talk to him, and then he kind of just starts showing signs he wants to be in the quiet.
Yeah.
And so we just have to kind of let him do what he needs to do.
Yeah. And so kind of along with the emotional side of things, some of the guilt and that kind of thing, sometimes we've gotten frustrated when we're dealing with him, and it's not him, but like especially early on when he was just screaming nonstop.
Yeah, and we couldn't stop.
There was nothing we could do to console him. It was so frustrating, and it wasn't like we didn't love him or anything, but there were times when the situation was just so so unbearable, and we'd get frustrated, and there's feelings of guilt that come from that as well, because you feel, well, he's just a innocent kid.
Yeah,
he's obviously something's wrong. That's why he's screaming, and you feel guilty for being frustrated, but it's a super frustrating experience sometimes, and you just have to let yourself feel those feelings without obviously not directing it at him. But just, let yourself feel how you feel
getting frustrated with any kid is natural. And a special needs kid, it's just amplified because you're spread so thin and you're not getting sleep and you're doing things you wish you didn't have to do. It's really important to just try to get a support group and accept help. When people ask if they can help or offer to help, if you're able to, which I think most people's situation, at least for, an hour or something, get some time away, get some time with your spouse, because it was really hard and frustrating for us. And there's not really anything to do with those frustration feelings.
Yeah.
You just have to kind of experience them, live with them, and then move on.
Yeah.
So it's helped so much for me just to get little breaks.
Yeah.
Just not anymore so much because Hunter goes to school and, he's grown up a lot. But when he was little, you don't want to leave them, of course, because, moms of special needs kids, you're 10 times more concerned about your special kid than you are your average kid. But you need to. They'll be fine. They'll survive. And you just have to get a little break when you
And I mean, that we had times when Hunter was really young and screaming and stuff. And I think my mom took him for a little while and let us have a little break. And I think there were some other people who
we
did
had
that.
a lot of help.
And that was super hard for us to do because we felt like he needed us because he did it because he wasn't doing good at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we needed that break to ourselves just to pull ourselves back together. Because those were some trying times. All right, so we're going from that to the gross stuff. And this is
Let's go here. Let's just go here.
We got to go here because this is the stuff that probably a lot of people think about maybe, but don't really want to talk about or definitely don't want to ask about.
But I'm sure everybody wonders.
It's the stuff you got to think about because it's real. This is the stuff we deal with. So in Hunter's case, he doesn't have complete control over his body, so he drools, and we're always having to deal with that and manage that and along with that because he doesn't have full control over his mouth and stuff.
I always feel bad for other people because I've gotten so used to it now.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I just look at him, or if I'm holding him from like an objective perspective from someone else, I'm like, oh, that must look really weird, to just have a kid drooling. Yeah. But we're so used to it. It's no big deal. And I'm not too worried about other people thinking that, we look weird.
Yeah, we're definitely used to that. But yeah, so there's the drool that, when we're feeding him, that gets super messy.
Oh, yeah.
And because he doesn't have full control. So we're basically having to shove bites in his mouth and he pretty much
half of it dribbles out.
It dribbles out. We have to put it, kind of scoop it back in, keep it in there and for him. And feeding him is a whole process.
Which we're very thankful for, that he can eat orally.
Yeah.
A lot of kids with his
we don't have to do the feeding
diagnosis have to have feeding tubes.
Yeah, so we're thankful
we're able to feed him.
Thankful for that, but it's definitely it's a full on chore to do that. Definitely.
Yeah, it is.
And
that we try to pawn off to each other as much as possible.
It's your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you do it a lot. Yeah, especially, but I definitely try to help. You're really good at it, though. You're a pro. You can do it in half the time.
I'm the fastest. He's used to me. He knows he's got to obey mama.
Yeah. And then just, in general, because of the mess of feeding, because of the drool, it's very hard to keep him clean. We're always having to change his shirts or
shirts are always a mess.
Oh, they're always such a mess. And it's something like, I think, when was that? Yesterday or something. Just we got home from church or something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we were out.
Oh, I know, and then it's embarrassing.
All the
we
stuff
had him out, but
on his sweater.
You can't help it because when you're done feeding him, food stays in his mouth. He has to eat pureed food because he can't chew very well, but he doesn't swallow it all the way because he doesn't really like to eat that much. So after you're done feeding him, his mouth still has food, and then he starts chewing on his hands.
Yeah.
So then food gets on his hands, and then he moves his hands down to his legs or his shirt. And then by this time, you have just white yogurt coating his entire person. It's been in his eyelashes before, his eyebrows.
Oh my gosh.
It's like the 9-month-old who gets to eat for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like perpetual.
Yeah, it's like that, but for the past
everywhere.
5 years.
It's not as cute when it's a 5-year-old. You don't really take pictures.
Not so much.
Yeah.
It kind of loses its endearing
Yeah.
quality a little bit. And then, there's that end of it. And then, he's not potty trained.
Right.
So, he's in, his diaper size is continually increasing, and we're always having to change that, and there's aspects of that because he doesn't move around a lot. He gets constipated, and then that comes with
we have
its
to deal
whole...
with that in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Thankfully, not as much as we have.
Used to have to do that.
But we've had to do that a lot. We have to put stuff in his bottle to help with that, and so that's a whole other aspect of it as well. So, that's the kind of stuff. I think that's something that, maybe people realize to some extent.
Yeah.
But the extent of it is...
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of practical aspects to that too, which is like finding places to change him when we're in a public place, because all the little changing stations are for
they're not built
babies.
for 5-year-olds.
They're they're up to like 2 or even 3.
Yeah.
But I mean, Hunter, a 5-year-old, a kindergartner, is a full-size kid. You can't put them up on one of those little koala changing table things.
And we're dealing with this with a 5-year-old. And so that's the flip side of that is, I'm sure our listeners and some of the people who've commented on the show notes and for previous episodes have shared, we've got a 5-year-old, so we've got it easy compared to some of the people who've got, adult children or teenage children and that kind of thing. And,
well, in that I was going to say that can get kind of daunting. Like there's not really any sign that he will, be potty trained. Yeah. So it kind of brings us...
It kind of leads into
the next one about the future.
Yeah, it's just concerns about the future. That's something I think about more and more as he gets older and older. Is okay, what are we going to do when he gets so heavy that it's hard to lift him, from one place to another, from one chair to his bed or any of that. What's that going to be like? I don't know. I don't know either. I was thinking about shaving the other day. Yeah, shaving. Randomly, I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be getting facial hair and we're going to have to shave him every day. Yeah. That didn't even occur to me ever, except for until recently. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. Shaving, bathing is going to get more difficult. Yeah, so if there's any parents out there of adult children. Yeah. We've already heard from some people who let us know and comment been down because that path we're stressed about this. We're not like actively stressed, but it is something. No, but it's when daunting. I think about it, it's kind of stressful. What are we going to do? I mean, thankfully, everything shows up, in stages, and you're not dealing with it all until you actually are. And then the stuff you were dealing with, you now have mastered, and so there's new stuff. It doesn't all just hit you. Well, and that's something we've definitely realized throughout this whole thing is with each new challenge, I don't know. I think God gives us the strength to meet that challenge where we're at, and not that we feel that way at the time. Yeah, looking back. 6 years ago, thinking about, oh my gosh, we're gonna have a special needs kid and all the stuff that goes with that, imagining dealing with that would have just been unfathomable, but here we are, and we do he's it. 5 years old, and we do it, and it's just... We couldn't have even imagined it, but now we just do it. The unimaginable stuff is just normal life now. Yeah, that's all it is for us. So, that's something we'll be crossing some bridges when we come to that, and along with that, having to adapt our van at some point so that we can... either lift his chair into the van and have that strapped in. Yeah, that's probably what we're going to do. As opposed to now, we just lift him from his chair to his car seat. And there's a lot of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Paperwork, appointments, talking to people you don't know. all this stuff goes way up when you have a kid with special needs, because there's so much. That's one thing I think this is, something that was really surprising, not surprising, but just something you don't think about.
Yeah. Ew, it was really surprising to me. And it's still so shocking when people call me, and I'm really bad at paperwork and being organized anyways. So if I was better at that, it probably would go smoother. Yeah. But I still get calls from people, and I can't really remember who
there's so many different
are or where they're from
to keep track of.
And they know, they know everything about Hunter. So they're telling me about all this stuff, because all of the people on his team with school and doctors, they all talk to each other. It's all very well organized. Right. But sometimes I'm on the outside, by no one's fault except for my own.
We need like a flow chart or some kind of org chart. So
I think I could be keeping up on it better, but
the physical therapy, you're the one.
Well, and then
the equipment,
doctors and the school, they transfer information back and forth, which is fantastic. I don't have to be involved in that. They can share information as needed
to some extent. Yeah.
But then they they have all these forms that I sign that are how much information and what information. And I have no idea. I never know what's a good okay. But anyways, then I get calls from people, and they seem to know stuff, but I'm not really sure who they are. And it just shocks me all the time, because it'll take my brain a couple minutes to be like, okay, wait, you're this person, and that's right. Okay, yes, we're doing this appointment. Hunter has fantastic health. So overall, I think for a special needs kid, he doesn't have a ton of doctor's appointments. Yeah. And he gets most of his therapy from school, so he doesn't have a lot of appointments, but comparatively, but for me, it's a lot. Yeah. Definitely. And I talk to so many people that I don't know, and I don't like talking to people on the phone that I've never met, but I just have to. We do it all the time.
Yeah. But I think the flip side of that is when it comes time for his what's it called? The IEP. When it comes time, we had one of those, what was that, a month or so ago?
In February.
And that's really cool, because we got to go to that, and we realized, okay, we've got this whole team of people, who have our back and who are helping
everybody
us
cares about him, and everybody knows
and just
so much.
So many sweet people who are just basically dedicated to supporting us.
We should do an episode about that. I see a lot of stuff in the Facebook groups about people really like ragging on their teams and their IEP and their teachers and the schools.
Well, I mean, that's, maybe people don't have. We're definitely blessed with the people we have. Absolutely.
We really are. But it's a lot of work to have a special needs class and classroom. Yeah. And I think those guys, even if they're not, I don't know, I think they do a lot of work, and they need a lot of support, and, I think we need to be grateful for them. But I see a lot of that negative towards teachers. But I think that's just kind of like the entitlement, like my kid deserves.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's very possible, because I definitely know there are people who've had bad experiences, and so we don't want to take that lightly. But I think it definitely, our experience has been really good, and we're definitely very blessed, and we definitely have a great appreciation for, how much work and organization and communication and all that stuff that goes into the various
I don't mean to say
roles.
I just personally don't like talking to people on the phone that I don't know, but I very much appreciate that, a lot of this stuff with Hunter, with his therapies and stuff, it's all really, really well dealt with by everyone. And a lot of times I'm just informed about what's going to go on and asked if I'm okay with it. And all I have to do is say yes or no, and it's easy.
Yeah. So one thing we kind of touched on a little bit when we talked about some of the gross stuff
Are we going back to that?
But no, we're not going back to that specifically. But we did talk a little bit about, just kind of looking goofy or looking, standing out a little bit. And that's, kind of not in a gross way, but but just, okay, so he just got this head support thing. We ordered online because he doesn't have good neck strength, and so his head tends to flop down a little bit, and so we're always trying to find good ways to keep his head sturdy so that he's not, cricking his neck and looking terribly uncomfortable. But so we got this new thing that basically wraps around his neck and holds up the sides, and it looks ridiculous. And it has this pattern on it that looks like it's straight out of Cool Running or something. It's pretty.
Not the most attractive. I don't know why they make this stuff out of such ugly fabric.
I kind of feel like he's like the leader of some new religion or something, because it looks like one of those
velcros. It comes around the bottom of his chin and it velcros. But what it does is, because when he falls asleep on the bus on the way to and from school, his head tends to like lop all the way forward. Mm-hmm. Like when the bus comes to a stop or anything like that, his head is just going all over the place. So that headrest holds, it looks like a neck brace. It looks like he broke his neck and it's like braced. But it's soft and everything, and it holds his head in place. Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things we struggled with a little bit, I think, especially earlier as he was kind of transitioning from infancy to, being more of a boy. And, it was kind of like, early on we could basically get away with, okay, he's in a stroller.
Right.
But, hey, he's a little kid, so whatever. But as he's gotten older, obviously it stands out more and more. Okay, he's not just like a little infant or toddler in a stroller. He's a full-on 5-year-old boy in a mobile chair.
Right.
And that's something that we've kind of struggled with because, there's just, I don't know what it is, but there's just that kind of stigma or something about, having all this mechanical stroller type stuff.
Well, and my, the thing that I was going to say about that is, just the physical sticking out. Mm-hmm. I don't mind so much about looking goofy or different because I don't know, but sticking out in the sense that like I actually have trouble getting him around in the stroller sometimes. If you're in a crowd or something, sometimes true. you can't just push him through. So if you're saying excuse me and the person doesn't hear you or something, you're kind of just stuck, and you can't just push him because your stroller is going to hit a person. So that's a big thing. That's the sticking out thing. Or like, when we're kind of struggling to get him over a bump or something, and then people kind of start swarming, trying to help. And it's, it's just, I don't know, you feel kind of like you're a nuisance on the world or something.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And just physically, and I know he's going to grow and get heavier, but physically sometimes I have a hard time just getting him over some
bump in the road or
bumps or around a corner or something. Yeah. Like he's just heavy and it's just big and, cumbersome for me. I can't even do
doorway.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like just, when we plan, when we tried to go to that restaurant in Old Town Lincoln, we tried to go to this restaurant and it's a cute little old brick restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even think about it because even though we've had him for 5 years, stuff still comes as a surprise to us. And we get to the restaurant and I'm like, I don't even know what I was thinking coming here. It's these tiny little stairs up to the restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's an old brick building, it's an old town. And so we couldn't go there. And it was just like, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Until we got there. And I'm like, this isn't possible for us. What are we thinking? So just the world that we live in these days, as opposed to 50 years ago or something, is very accessible to handicap people in their wheelchairs. But there's still a lot of stuff where I'll think about going somewhere and then I'll just be like, no, I can't go there. Like that store has the aisles way too close together. Like we will not fit comfortably.
Yeah.
So it's just annoying.
Yeah, or just tonight at the like I think we mentioned earlier, we're going through the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University, and they have childcare there at the church that's sponsoring it, and we have to lift the chair up.
Oh yeah, over the baby gate.
Over the baby gate because the baby gate does.
Oh yeah, they have the baby gates in each doorway. And keep the babies and the special needs children out.
yeah, fairly. So we actually have to. They have a young guy helping them, and so we actually have to lift his stroller up over the baby gate.
Yeah, that's
to get
funny.
him in. And it's It's
not a big deal, but
it's not a big deal. But it's just one of those things where it's just like that's the kind of stuff you deal with that you just don't really imagine at all.
Yeah, who would have thought? You can't even like enter the child care room.
Yep. So here's the last thing on the list, and I'm sure those of you who have special needs kids, you definitely got stuff you could add or change on your own list. But basically, there's and to kind of end on a positive note, but there's the love, the affection, the sweet times that I think, before we had Hunter, we wouldn't always be able to think, how do they connect with that kid if he can't talk and
right,
and if he can't hug them back and that kind of stuff. But definitely with Hunter, and we're blessed because out of all of his disabilities, the one area that he is the furthest progressed, as minimal as it is his social and emotional cognitive abilities. He can connect, he can make eye contact, he can express happiness, he can smile.
He loves people. He can express that he loves you.
And he's just, and so that's something, and that's our little thing that we can be thankful for the most is just we are able to, share that love with him and have that connection. And even though we have to put his arms around us,
we can tell that he likes us.
We know that he likes us, and we can make him laugh, and we can make eye contact with him. And those are when there's so much he can't do, the little things that he can do are just amazing. Just, stuff you take for granted with any other kid.
Yeah.
That's the stuff where you just,
Well, and having him respond to only us sometimes.
Yeah.
Like somebody else will be holding him and he'll be crying, and then another person will take him and he'll cry or fuss. And then I'll get him sometimes and he's just as happy as a clam. Yeah. So it's like, okay, he knows.
I'll be walking by. And his head
knows
will turn
us.
to follow
he
me
knows that we're his parents. He likes us especially, which of course you get that from average kids, but it's because like Mason, his twin brother, who's 5, says, "I love you, Mom," and so you know that he loves you. Well, with Hunter, he can't say that, but there's little signs where if you pay attention, you can tell, like, okay, he cried with like 3 people and then stopped with me, so he knows.
Yeah.
And he's just so snuggly. He's still, you can just like wrap him up in your arms and he just will sit for so long. Our little guy, Connor, who's almost 2, he'll sit in my arms like a baby and I'll say, "Oh, Connor, you're my baby." And then he goes, "Baby Connor." And then 2 seconds later, he springs up and goes, "All done," and starts running away.
Yeah.
But with Hunter, he loves to just snuggle and snuggle. He'll just stay forever if you let him.
Yeah,
and that's
like
really
the other day,
sweet.
he was actually he was a little fussy, and so I got him out of his chair and snuggled with him a little bit, and that calmed him down. And I ended up just kind of laying on the couch with him and snuggling him while we watched a show together. And those are little moments that you just appreciate and treasure. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us again for this episode. This is our longest episode yet.
Oh, this one is? I thought last one was.
Nope, this one we went even longer. So it's a good thing we broke this up into 2 different episodes.
Right. Well, you guys are going to get tired of listening to us. So.
But if you're not tired of listening to us and would like to share, your own experiences or add or change anything to the list, or if you're just curious about what it's like to have a special needs kid and you want to just share, what stuck out to you from the list, anything that surprised you or you found, particularly enlightening, or if you're just like, hey, I already knew all this stuff, I know everything.
Yeah.
You can
you guys are wasting your time.
Yeah, let us know. If you have any other comments or you want to leave us a voicemail or send us an email, all our contact information is at www.specialneedspodcast.com. If you want to leave us an iTunes review, we'd really appreciate any feedback you can provide there. If you want to join our Facebook group, we've got that as well. Again, all the information is on specialneedspodcast.com. If you have a friend who you think might find this podcast useful, please share it with a friend. We'll catch you next week.
All right, bye, guys.
For comics, videos, and more original and entertaining podcasts, visit BreakroomStudios.com.